And I'll play the intro again. What is this going live? Thing going. All right, here we go.
With your hosts, Wayne Moon, Greg Novel, and Lou Maddox.
Welcome to Rat Salad Review. What's up, everybody?
Hey, howdy.
Doing good. And this is the one time this show that we're going to say, hello, baby bats.
Hello, baby bats. And hello, Goth Dad.
Oh, hi there. How's it going? Yes, indeed. Hello to all the dearest baby bats that are out there in the internet, watching on the YouTubes, as a dad would say.
Gotta add the YouTubes. You have to make it the double capitalization.
Yeah, that's like standard dad fare, is to add unnecessary these and s's to things, I see her on the Facebooks there. Yeah. Well, geez, I remember when we had yearbooks, we didn't have the Facebooks, but it's just.
I was watching an interview with you earlier, and it had me rolling, man, because I live in Minneapolis currently, and while I'm not related to someone, I work with a guy that makes up those 1,000 dad jokes on the spot, which
nice.
No one gets but him, and aren't funny. And he ends most of them with, "Oh yeah, you betcha."
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a I feel like there's something about the Midwest, especially Minnesota, Wisconsin accent that just is so hilariously dad centric. And I don't know. I mean, it just has always made sense to me. I think people are always the number one question I get asked is aside from are you from the Midwest, which I'm not, which is hilarious. But the number one question is probably where did this come from, and why the accent? And I'm I don't know, man. It really, there's something about it, that just struck me as that's it, that's what this dude has to sound like.
So you never had a troop or anybody from the Midwest that had that thick Minnesotan accent there?
No, I mean, I've been around people in the military that had it, but the character of Goth Dad himself, I'll kind of give you guys the background if that's something that you want me to go into. Yeah, so basically, Goth Dad was when I write music, I write what I call scratch tracks, which is a very non-technical musician term for me. That it's when I'm making a song and I'm just kind of I have maybe the basic melody of the guitar work and the drums and all that, all the background, the bones of the song. And I'll make these kind of scratch tracks to kind of conceptualize a vocal harmony or melody. And a lot of the times I make just sort of bullshit lyrics that don't make any sense, and I'll kind of just sing them either in my head or out loud. And when it came to the Goth Dad video, it was on TikTok, and I was just I had written this cool riff, and I was I don't know what it was. I was thinking about dads a lot lately because my dad had just moved with my mom up to Vermont, and I had just met our bass player Dan's parents. And so it's just I guess I just had dads on the mind, but something about that, just funny concept of my dad is a really big dad joker. Right. And I was what if the song was about I don't know, a dad who's really heavily goth. Because I had also recently seen this meme, and I don't know, it might have been The Onion or something, but it was being goth after 50, and it just shows these senior citizens, and it's I mean, these people are in their probably 70s at the picture they show, but I thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, that's where that's the genesis of the idea and I wrote that song and I put it out on TikTok, and like people were like, holy shit, this is hilarious. And I was like, I guess it is, you know, I mean, I didn't even, it's just like some dumb thing that I came up with. But and then I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, man, you know, this is like a good like character thing. And I did a lot of like acting stuff when I was a kid. You know, I was in drama in high school, and I participated in some like short film stuff in my adult years. And, you know, so I was like, okay, well, I think I can like flesh this out. And I've always been really weirdly good at accents. Right. So I was like, all right, well, and that's just that's it. It's like, I mean, he's like a composite of like my dad with the horrible jokes, and then like Dan's dad, who unfortunately passed away not too long ago, but he's had this insanely thick, like, we went to this like restaurant, and Dan was like, oh yeah, like don't be alarmed at like how Midwestern my parents are. And I was like, all right, I won't be alarmed. And then I got there and I was like, Jesus Christ, man, like, these people are fucking extraordinarily Midwestern. But you know, they're really endearing. And again, it's just that like there's some like weird, like wholesome thing about it that I just think is really endearing. And I guess ultimately for me, like that character concept is sort of purely wholesome. He's extremely embarrassing and cheesy and cringy, and that's like the point. And I think that works well because like TikTok is inherently cheesy, cringy, and embarrassing. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I get to like, I am that way too. Like I'm slowly but surely becoming my father, goth version of my dad. So. But anyway.
No, I hear you. I just don't want to grow the mustache like my dad did. So that I'm not going to do.
Same here. Yeah, my dad has a really wicked, like awesome mustache, but I'm like, not for me.
Lou, I would love for you to become the Greek goth dad. That'd be hilarious.
I first of all, I wouldn't insult my goth friends out there. I would be Greek metal dad, and
there you go.
I'd probably wear Iron Maiden shirts, wear a bald cap, and just put on a fake mustache. But I don't know. Please, no one out there take my idea.
You gotta do the bead flicking while you're doing it too.
Oh, the bead flicking. Now go back to smoking parliaments again. Anyways, moving right along.
Oh man, that's too funny. But give us a goth dad joke. You got one off the top of your head?
Let's see. The one that I told we did a show in Savannah, and somebody was like, tell a goth dad joke. And that's like, I guess that's become the thing is like, I have to say at least one at every show, because people are like, what? Like if I don't, you know, because I try to have like some relative level of separation where I'm like, all right, this is not going to become like goth dad stand-up hour, but I'll give you like one joke. And my favorite one that I told recently was, I still get a laugh out of this because some of them I just like find they're just like kind of Halloween jokes, but this one I actually came up with, which was what's a goth's favorite bakery? Bela Lugosi's bread. You know, and I was like, I was pretty proud of that one, because like when I do come up with the ones that are actually funny, I'm like, damn, that took one of the two firing neurons remaining in my brain to like connect. And
you guys did get that joke, right?
Bauhaus
song.
God, I would hope so.
Oh yes. Okay.
Yes,
they're like, it's just not very funny.
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved it.
No. There was a whole. I was just trying not to overpower the laugh there.
Oh,
it's funny because, like you said, you were in Savannah. That's a kind of a target-rich environment for the macabre and the death there. So
yeah.
Spend a lot of time training down there too. So that's
cool.
That's a fun place to.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite cities in the Southeast. You know, there's not a lot of like running contenders for cool places in Georgia, as it turns out. But like,
no, there's not.
I mean, you know, Athens,
really isn't.
Savannah, and then you've got like parts of Atlanta. But I kind of fucking hate Atlanta because the traffic is like a true nightmare. And then, you know, the northern. As it looks like you're sitting in front of like the North Georgia mountains, right?
I am in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm stationed in Chattanooga. So,
okay, sweet.
Yeah,
sweet.
I deal with North Georgia, Squidbilly country. Enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's actually based on several counties in Georgia, to include the county I went to high school in, which is Oglethorpe County, Georgia.
Oh gosh, Oh yes, Oglethorpe. Yeah, we had to spend enough time in Catoosa. So
yeah,
I can't believe there's an exit on the skyway in Atlanta that says Tyler Perry Studios there right now. It's like, really, I mean, is it that frequently visited? Jeez.
You'd be surprised, I bet. I mean, I bet there's people like left and right going to that. But
I mean, you could throw a rock and hit the So Deaf place right there. So
yeah, but like Atlanta's becoming a hub for film because we have like a big tax credit, so it's kind of being known as like the new Hollywood, which is cool. I mean, we have seen a lot of movies filmed here in the past 10 years, and it's becoming like really regular. As a matter of fact, fun that we mentioned Savannah. They were filming the next Halloween movie while we were there, so that was kind of cool. And I really wanted to drunkenly stumble onto the scene, but there were like a lot of cops. So yeah, that was probably not a good idea.
Which people don't know about Savannah is Savannah's an open carry city. So you can be easily walking around getting blasted and may or may not have participated a few times on the best one is the haunted pub crawl where you get to run around the ghost stories while drinking beer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool city. It's very steeped in history and
way better than Charleston.
Yeah. You just get your plastic cup and you're good to go. You can drink downtown and it's nobody gives a shit, which is nice. So
now a Vision video. Actually I got the CD right here.
Oh, right, cool. There. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. I heard of you on TikTok. That's what
nice.
I contacted you on, and one of your friends, some girl, I can't think of the name right now, but she was in a cemetery, and then there was a casket laying on the ground, and she opens it, and you pop out. And you do
Maddie.
Yes.
I follow her. She's great.
She's awesome.
Yeah. And you do one of your Goth Dad jokes, and in the background you had what's In My Side, and she had it on In My Side, music. So I heard that, and I'm like, that sounds really cool. So I looked it up and listened to the whole song, and I enjoyed it. I only listened to the whole song. I said I got to buy the album. So I
thanks. Well, thanks for the support. It goes a long way. Yeah, that record was our first record. That's our debut. It's called The Inked in Red. And we put that out almost a year ago, next month, I think. No, 2 months. In April, it'll be a year, which is so bizarre because it feels like a lot longer in a lot of ways. But yeah, that's like the culmination of a couple of years of just like really intensely hard work on behalf of the 4 members of the band. Well, I guess it's technically 5 members. It's myself playing guitar and lead vocals. Co-vocals and keys are Emily Friedock, Jason Fusco on drums, and then originally we had Dan Geller on bass, and now we actually have Tom Ashton, who was in the famed goth band called the March Violets. He's playing bass for Dan on tour, and he's helping write a bit for the second record. So but yeah,
March Violets, they were on the Some Kind of Wonderful soundtrack.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
I remember that.
They did the big songs are Snake Dance and Walk Into the Sun, and then the one track that I can't remember off the top of my head for Some Kind of Wonderful, which is a great movie, and it's really fun because you can actually watch that and they're like in it. They're the band, they're the backing band, like at the big party. Oh, really? So okay, cool. Yeah, they did like I think 2 or 3 songs for that. But Tom's cool. He's a lot of fun. He's from Leeds, England, and he's like a really interesting guy to be around because he was. Fun fact, he was actually the original guitarist for the Sisters of Mercy. And then like Sisters and the Violets were both like doing really well, but he was like, I have to pick one of these. So he picked the Violets because the bass player Lawrence was like his best friend from youth. So, just stand to reason that he would go with him. But yeah, I often joke, I'm like, do you think you picked the right one? He's like, yeah, because I guess, success aside, like they did really well in the 80s. I think the Sisters had a bit more over like international success, but I mean, I think if you measure your accomplishments in terms of like finance and stuff, when it comes to art, you're kind of selling yourself short quite a bit. So I think, and in a way of synchronicity, maybe it's a good thing that he didn't, because he wouldn't be hanging out with us making this music and doing this project, which I think has a lot of promise and a lot of meaning, more importantly. So yeah.
How did you get involved with him?
This is actually a really funny story. So I DJ like our local goth night in Athens, which is like it's a once every 3 months kind of affair. We don't have a very big scene. It's kind of grown quite a bit in the past few years, but it's reasonable enough that like once every 3 months you're going to have 150 people, and it's pretty cool. But when we first started doing it, this is before Vision Video or anything. I was just kind of freshly back out of the military here in Athens. I left the Army in 2016, and I moved back, and I was DJing on the rooftop of our famous Georgia Theater, which is like a big rooftop bar on the top of that venue. And I was playing Snake Dance by the March Violets, which is like one of my favorite goth dance songs. Like it's just it's got this like sneering punky guitar to it, and that like nice little Linn drum machine going off, and the vocals are just spooky and weird but like beautifully done. It's an overall great song, and it always fills the dance floor. So I'm playing this song, and I'm just like hammered out of my mind. And somebody, a friend of mine, this English woman, or maybe she's Welsh, but anyway, she comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, Dusty, Tom Ashton is here." And I was like, "Who the fuck is Tom Ashton?" And she's like, "The guy that's playing the guitar in that song, you goon." And I was like, "Oh shit." And she's like, "Well, I'll introduce you." And I'm like, "Oh shit." So she brings him over, and I'm like beat red, and I'm just like, "Dude, like it's a great song." And he's like, "Oh, it's good to meet you," and blah, blah, blah. And we just became like immediate friends. It's one of those things like, when you just like start talking to somebody and like 2 minutes in, you're like, "Oh, hell yeah. Like I'm going to know this person pretty well." It was exactly like that. And it was really cool. But we got done with the night, and he's like, "Hey, I run a studio out of my house now. Like I've got a full studio in this, basically they have like a finished basement that he turned into a studio." And he's like, "Hey man, if I know you." At that point in time, I had been working on some project that I had been calling Agonal Gasps, and it was basically this like solo, very synth heavy, John Carpenter, dancey, like horror inspired stuff. But I showed him some of that, and he was like, "Well, let's record it." And blah, blah, blah. And then, but simultaneously, I was working there. This kind of segues into how the band formed. Jason Fusco, our drummer, is a phenomenal. He's kind of based in punk rock. He plays in a band called She He, which is it's him, his wife, and their friend Noel, and they're just amazing. It's kind of like 70s jet punk. But he had been hearing some stuff I'd been posting on like Facebook or something. It's just like, "Hey, here's what I'm working on," and he's like, "Let me put some drums behind that." And that's just kind of how it started. And then like right after that, Dan was in a band in the early 2000s called he was in two bands that were pretty big. He was in The Agenda, which was one of those like kind of Brit pop punk throwback bands that just exploded in the early 2000s. And then he was in another band called I Am the World Trade Center, which was before 9/11. But and he's like I used to break into these like clubs to go see him when I was too young to get in. So he asked to join the band because he was like, "Man, I really like what you guys have been doing." And then it just so happened that we found our friend Emily, who is a classically trained pianist. And we're like, "We've been looking for a keyboard player." There you go. So, it's Athens. That's like, I guess this whole story encapsulates like why I'm here in Athens, because when I left the military, I thought about going to Berlin. I was stationed in Germany because I'm from Berlin originally. And like, I was like, "Oh man, I could stay here and like go to school for free. Like you can get your master's degree for free." And I was like, but I want to go play music. And it totally verified the reason and legitimized the reason for me to come back here, was that like Athens is a music town, and it's cheap, and it's just, you meet like such amazing and cool people all the time who are like, "Hey, are you in a band? Do you want to be in a band?" And you're like, "Yes, like let's do this." So yeah, it's been a really satisfying experience in that way.
cool. Sounds like it has been. Jeez, I mean, you got people easily making a band. It's it's awesome. It's not like where we are. I'm in Long Island, so is Lou. Because we've both been in bands too, and trying to find musicians to play with us and stuff like that. It's not easy.
Yeah,
because you're not in a Southeastern Conference college town. That's your problem. You know, like in Knoxville, we've got we could throw rocks and hit great bands, and yet you're down in Athens. Unfortunately, the fans there bark a little bit, but
I can't help it that I went to a college where they stopped funding the football team. The St. John's football team was considered the worst in the conference. My sophomore year, there was no more football team.
That's like heresy down here, man. That's
blasphemy. You can't be doing no blasphemy down here.
Georgia football, we're the national champs now too. So I mean, and I
went to Tennessee, so
I have a love-hate kind of thing with the Bulldogs here, because I'm alumni to Georgia, and I think I hate it when people are like, oh, fucking sports ball, like, nah, like, dude, you're hipster bullshit. Like, I can't stand that. Like, just let people enjoy things. Like,
Agreed.
even if you don't like it, don't be like, sports ball, like it's just like a bunch of you want to know what it is? It's a bunch of amazing people that have worked their whole lives to do one thing, and they're really good at it, and that's like something to be respected and commended. And so there's a lot of that here in Athens too, where people are like, the football. And I'm like, yeah, okay, don't watch it, dude. Like, but it also brings you like a ton of money. And like all those people that are saying that shit are like service industry people, which I can talk shit on them because I'm a bartender too. So
I'm about to say it's all fun and games until you don't have those 90,000 drunk people.
Yeah.
The entire, it's not just the people that go into the stadium, it's everybody around there that just goes for the party. So
exactly. And like, I mean, I just, the town is predicated on it. And I understand like why they get upset, because like I didn't do anything, when the UGA football team won the national championship, like all these drunk frat kids like destroyed like Clayton Street, which is like our main street in downtown. And it did piss me off, because like when I wasn't there because I was working in the fire department, but the day prior I was down like at the protests for BLM. And, when that shit was kicking off, year and a half ago, and I was there to show my support and something that I believed in peacefully. And it was totally peaceful. And then that night when I went home to go get ready to go to work at the fire department, 30 of my friends got tear gassed for like literally no reason, because they were just sitting at a Confederate monument, like literally sitting there having a conversation with one of the county commissioners about how to, make things better in this country. And the fucking governor ordered the police to come in and tear gas them. But you don't see it happening to the rich white kids down on Clayton, because they tore up an entire town. But, so like there's legitimate grievance, but it's also like, just like I said, just let people enjoy shit, like there's enough like grief out there. We don't need to like generate grief. You know what I mean? Like it's so silly, but so it's a double-edged sword. Like I said, I have a lot of love, and I won't call it hate, but not so much love for this town.
Proper content.
Yes, exactly.
So what made you get into the military?
Oh man, how far down the rabbit hole do we want to go? I'm just kidding.
Well, there's two of us in here, Wayne.
I was gonna say there's also a military guy right here too.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was really. I joined in 2007. Like I was a high school dropout. I had a GED. And it wasn't, due to academic problems or anything. I just, I went to Oglethorpe County High School, and I was just like, I'm not learning anything. So I had a job at a car parts factory. I got out, and I was just like, I was going to this like technical school, Athens Tech, and it's a great school. It's like it's actually phenomenal. It's very cheap and it's very effective. I learned a lot there. But I was just like 19-year-old kid, and I was like still kind of in the goth scene in Atlanta, but I was like kind of getting away from it because it was too far away. So I didn't feel a lot of sense of community, even though I love the music and I never stopped listening to it. But I was just like, I was wasting a lot of time. I was smoking a lot of weed and like reading a lot of like really heady like French existentialist stuff like Camus and Sartre and all this stuff. And like, you know, like also,
what a book.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, obviously like The Cure, you know, Killing an Arab and all that stuff. It pushes you to interesting places. But yeah, like I don't know. My dad was in the military for like almost 20 years, and he got medically retired. And you know, the wars were both like really kicking in 2007. Yeah. And I had this like strange feeling that if I didn't do it and go and do something, either the military or something else, like really dramatic and drastic to change who I was and define myself, that I was going to just sort of evaporate into the mediocrity that you can get into in a town like Athens. Because Athens has these like Neverland boys that have just been here forever. And it's like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not pointing at anybody being like, hey, fuck you, dude. Like, why didn't you ever leave? It's easy. It's really easy in a place like this. It's a lot of fun. It's super cheap. There's great music. But unless you're working really hard to like do something further, it's just super easy to get into this like insane rut. And at 19, I was feeling that. I was like, damn, like if I don't get out of here and go do something, I'm never going to do anything. Right. So I joined like I enlisted first in the National Guard here in Georgia as infantry. And I kind of realized that was a big mistake, because at that point I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to see like reality, and just I didn't like really believe in anything that we were doing. I kind of felt in my gut like, this is probably wrong, but I just wanted to be part of history and part of something bigger than myself. And I got put in this unit that had been just like constantly deployed since 2001. So they were like sort of put on Georgia QRF, which is like, if anything happens around here, we're going to send you guys. So I tried really hard to deploy for a couple of years, but that's when the housing market collapsed. So everybody in the National Guard was just like, all right, I'll volunteer. And everybody just went. So it became kind of hard to deploy for a while. And, so I realized like, hey, I've got to go get a commission and become an officer, go active duty, because that's the only way I can get out of my enlistment. So I finished my degree at UGA. At that point I had gotten to Georgia, and I got over there. And, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things where it led me down a path of a lot of self-realization, which I'm very happy and proud of. Like, I'm glad that I did figure out who I was, and I did get tested in ways that were uncomfortable, but made me go, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I know my limit, or I know I know that I have humanity and empathy, and I do legitimately care about people, because there were times where I could have taken the easier wrong than the harder right in Afghanistan. And, you know, so, but ultimately, like, I got back from all that, and I was like, dude, this thing is a big fucking lie. Like, it's a giant business, and it's, you know, they're really good at social engineering and making everybody feel a lot of feelings about like why we should go to war. And even if it's like kind of justified, it's like so much rhetoric that they just dump on people. And I was like, man, I just can't like do that anymore. So I came back into the reserves for a couple of years, and like technically speaking, I'm still fucking in, because I got an email.
We saw the video.
Yeah. I got a call like a month and a half ago.
Congratulations.
Like, hey, are you coming to drill this weekend? I was like, what are you talking about, dude? They're like, we have you listed. You just been like absent. And I'm like, dude,
you just haven't been getting paid. You've been that I forget the guy with the stapler from Office Space. You just been that guy.
Milton.
Yeah. Milton.
You've been Milton the entire time.
Yeah, they've just been moving my desk everywhere, but that's all good.
I'm burning it to the ground.
Yeah. That's about how I felt when they called me. I mean, because this guy was like dead serious. He's like, you need to come in. I was like, dude, I'm not coming in, dog. Like, because it was another captain. So he's just a peer. And I'm like, you know, and this is a guy that you could tell he's like used to throwing his rank around, because once you get to captain, like, you're not like a peon anymore in the officer ranks. And I was like, nah, dude. Like, I think I literally said, nah, dude.
You're better than what I would have dropped, which is, because I'm an E5, I'd be like, with all due respect, sir. But
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I was just like, no, sorry, dude. Like, I'm not going to be there because I was going to play a show. I was like, there's no fucking chance. Like, I'm going to, I think, where were we going? We're going to like Florida or something. Yeah. And I was like, there's no way.
I hate to say this, but I might be doing the same thing next week for missing Drill to go to a Tool concert. So,
hey, sometimes you just got to do it.
You could just tell your captain, with all due respect, sir, bite me, Gomer. That's what you could say.
Tool's worth it. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen them live once, so I was like,
I'm excited. I've never seen them live, and I'm driving all the way to Kentucky to go see them.
Yeah,
so.
you'll dig it, man. It's a spectacle. I mean, it's exactly what you want it to be. Like, I'm not even the biggest Tool fan in the world, but I like them a lot, and I was like, holy shit, that's up there. I mean, it's in the capital of bourbon, so I'm definitely not. I've definitely got a military reputation to uphold of being severely intoxicated when that's going down. Yeah, if you're not embarrassing your branch of service, then what are you really doing?
I mean, I'm Air Force, sir, so we had the pinky up.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
So a ridiculous Tool thing. Since we're talking about Tool right now, I saw the other day they're only going to sell it at their concerts right now, but a limited edition of the vinyl.
Yeah,
and they're signing it. They want $800.
Yeah. We were actually talking about that.
Is it $800?
$800
that much money, you better get a bottle of fucking Robitussin DM with it so you can actually enjoy that record.
Wow. There's a certain level of pretense that just becomes like unpalatable. We're at the studio tonight recording. We're actually recording our second record right now, and our bass player Dan brought that up, and I was like, what? Like, yeah. I mean, at what point, like, I just think like you get to a certain level of like fame and notoriety where you just like exist in an alternate reality. And I just can't imagine like what must go through somebody's head to be like, well, I've already got like millions of dollars, but it'd be nice. Like a fuck ton more. Million. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I've lived off government checks for so long that I'm like, if somebody gave me like $1 million, I'd be like, I'm fucking scared, man. Like, I would be like legitimately like afraid, like, because I would just be like, I'm gonna like, I don't want to touch it. Like, am I gonna break $1 million? Like, I don't know what anyway.
Exactly. I mean, like, I got the Lateralis on vinyl and it's freaking awesome, but I'm not gonna I'm like, I feel like conflicted of putting that on the record, let alone just something I paid $800 for. Get the heck out of here.
That's just like,
I'll spend it on Pappy instead.
I would get it if there you go. That's a much better investment. I would understand it if it was like, we have 3 of these.
All right.
3. Yeah. That's it. But I guarantee you there's like 5,000 of them.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's probably insane.
It's ridiculous.
But, I mean, we can't get people to buy our merch. You think we're going to shell out $800 for Tool signatures? No.
I already know somebody who bought one. Right?
What? Damn, man.
Because I gave you permission. I saw the thing on Facebook, and I go, "Who's going to buy that?" I know somebody will. And then somebody commented, "I already know somebody that bought it." So I was like, "I knew it."
Yeah.
I mean, and here I am. I'm just jazzed to get a T-shirt. Gosh bless.
Yeah.
Make sure you bring a hundo.
Well, so I know right now I'm afraid. I'm gonna be like, I might have to go get the bootleg guy off the street down.
Maybe one day we'll have the Vision Video $800 vinyl limited edition.
No, that comes with like a shoe polish and like a back rub.
Well, at least we get something out of that.
Yeah,
and a signed copy of Report to Duty.
Yeah, you get my DD-214 with that. My release.
Hell, I'd take one of the costumes from one of the music videos. Love the videos.
Yeah. I mean, like that's that's like, if you're gonna ask some exorbitant amount of money, like it's got to be something better than your signature, dude. Like, I mean, that's just so like cheesy. Like, I don't know. I feel like
some incentive.
Yeah, like it's got to be like something that actually has like relative value, which is that's such a nebulous thing these days, but I don't know. Like okay, for example, this is, like our manager is like hooking up a series of like NFTs for us, and we're actually going to do it in a cool way. Because NFTs, like he was like, oh, you guys should like think about this. We've got these guys that are wanting to do this with y'all and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, like I know nothing about it. And it sounds like fiat bullshit to me, but
it's a big thing right now,
there's actual cool things that you can do with it. So the thing that we're going to do in the next few months here is we're going to create a series of like NFTs that have actual real world value. So it's not just like, I have the Vision Video Goth Dad pipe NFT, like some 8-bit JPEG. It's going to be like hard coded into the NFT. So there's two things that we're doing with it that I was like really insistent on. I told them, number one, it has to go to charity. Like every time. So like anytime you exchange hands with an NFT, it goes, some proceeds go to like the original owners. So it is like generating income for the band, but I was like, it has to generate income for like a cat rescue and like PTSD awareness fund or something like that. And they're like, yep. And this group was like, we don't do anything that doesn't involve some level of charity funds. So that's already done. But the cool thing for the fans is that we're like hard writing into the code. If you're the owner of that NFT, you basically will be able to get in any of our shows for free, like forever. So
cool.
It becomes inherently more valuable, right? The more that we grow, and hopefully we grow further, but the more that we grow, the more value that thing has. And you can sell it, which is going to make the band some money. It'll make you, the holder, money, and it'll also donate to charity. But then it also goes to a fan who's like, awesome, I love Vision Video. I go around and I see them as much as I can. Now I can go do that. And then we'll probably do one that's like, come to the green room with us and actually hang out whenever you want, with the addendum that like we have to vet you first, because if you're like not somebody that we want, like
I couldn't help but just notice that you quoted the Cure's Primary somewhere in there, by the way.
Did I? I might have been accidentally.
The more that we grow, the further we grow. I'm like, wait,
oh yeah,
lyric.
Oh shit,
they totally did, yeah.
Now, if they did get the backstage pass, would they be able to hold it like in Wayne's World when they're going back to the Alice Cooper concert?
Yeah,
there's no other way to hold it, James.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You're asking somebody who's never done this before, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll learn.
Yeah, it's backstages are funny too, because like most of them are way more boring than you'd think. Like I've been to a few like pretty cool ones with Tom, because he's like a very famous musician from the 80s. So like a lot of like we were backstage at what was it? Modern English, which was really cool, and a couple other bigger like 80s bands that came through. And it's just like, it's just like some good food and just some booze. And like I'm sure there's bands that take it to the extreme degree, but ours are pretty tame because I'm getting older and everybody like Emily's 25, everybody else is like senior citizens in this band. So.
She was having fun in the Waffle House videos.
Oh my god. Savannah was not like, okay, so to give you a little background though, Savannah is where Emily's from as a teenager and early adult. So every time we go to Savannah, she's like just absolutely just off the rails. And I have to like distance myself from her because like, I mean, I love to drink. I drink all the damn time and I probably drink too much, but like being around 25-year-olds, and I'm 35. So I mean, it's not like insane, but like, you feel it now. It's like, damn, dude, like I can't like, and people are like, take a shot. I'm like, if I take a shot, I will literally die. Like not figuratively, I will cease to exist. I will collapse and you will have to do CPR. Yeah. So that's like one of the nice things that like touring does though, is it really puts like every bit of substance in perspective. And obviously I can only drink because I'm a firefighter and we get drug tested. So that's the only thing that I can do is the thing that's definitely going to kill me in 20 years. But, like you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh shit. Okay. We got to get our stuff packed up into the van. We got to drive 8 hours. We got to get to the venue, load in, sound check, eat something, throw a bunch of makeup on, get ready, warm up my fingers, do a little huddle, hug everybody, get on stage. And then it's like, all right, done, breakdown, sell merch, go to the hotel. And there's just no room for like these crazy nights. And so I kind of just prefer now to be on tour so that I don't like go off the rails, because if I have nothing to do, I probably will. So yeah.
Well, you definitely have some dates coming up, and I see that you're also coming to the New York area, which is awesome. There was one band though that stuck out, and by the way, I heard the CD and I absolutely loved it. And I saw that you one of the bands that you were playing with, I saw the name of it and I was like, that is the greatest name that I ever heard. Ringo Death Star.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely and because I saw the name on your Instagram post, I actually listened to it and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Any chance on like, I guess, going on more national tours with like two bands that you're friends with, and maybe just coming up? There's a big goth convention happening in Parsippany, New Jersey, actually in the month of April. It's called Dark Side of the Con.
Yeah.
The birthday massacre is headlining, and my friend Baron, who plays in the Carnivore tribute band Carnivore ED, they're going to be doing a whole tribute set to Typo Negative that night.
Badass.
That would be something cool that I would love to see you guys at on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that con. I know that they asked us last year and we were just like totally unable, but and I'm a huge fan of playing at cons, because there is no better treatment like in the world. Like we played Dragon Con for the first time last year, and I go to Dragon Con every year anyway because it's in Atlanta, and it's just like people are like, oh, like even my nerdy friends are like, I don't know, man, a con. I'm like, dude, it's drunk, crazy adult Halloween for 4 days. That's it. It's a huge party,
except for one guy that has a tea room in his
booth.
Yeah, because that's my boy. That's my friend who does the tea with Iro.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's just like this awesome experience, and like they take such good care of you. They put you up in a nice hotel and they feed you, and they just like, it's not like going to like Club X where they're like, I think sound checks at 7, but we'll be there at 8:30, and like we don't really give a shit, so blah blah blah. Like, not to say every club's like that, but there's a lot of places that you just show up and they're just like, okay. And it's like, dude, this is like we're like a team here. Like, I want to know, like, what's your name, sound person? Like, who are you? Like, we're here to work with you. It's not a combative situation. But anyway, to answer your question though, like we already have some plans for June, July, and it's probably up towards the Northeast as well. Because this tour that we're going on is in March through April. It's sort of like dead west to hit South by Southwest, because we got in on that, and it's like, you got to kind of play the game with that. Like, I'm not crazy about the idea of it, because there's just like hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of bands, and everybody's just frantically running from one place to the next. And it's, but there's a lot of industry people, and whether we like it or not, and I certainly don't like it, we're a business and we have to treat it that way in order to pay the bills. Like, my ultimate goal is like not to become like dramatically wealthy. If it happens along the way, cool. But like, my goal is to pay my damn bills and to just do this. If I can pay my bills by leaving the fire department and just being a musician and doing what I'm really passionate about, like, that's what I want to do. Because, even if only I do it for like 2 or 3 years, like, that's cool. But so we got to go pay our homage at South by, but then we're playing like a bunch of places that we haven't played before, like a couple of dates in Texas, like El Paso, Laredo. They're playing Yuma. We're playing Vegas, which I'm so excited about because I've never been to Vegas, and I'm a huge fan of like kitschy, like 50s, like Art Deco, mid-century modern stuff, like big neon signs. I just want to see all that. But then through California, I think 2 or 3 dates in California, Pacific Northwest, Boise for Tree Fort, and then some dates in the Midwest across to New York, and then back home. So it's a big, crazy circle. And I think, the ideal end state is by the end of this year, moving into next year, is this we're in sort of indefinite cycles of touring, because our record is slated to come out in October. So that's the grand strategy, if you will. But I mean, and it's all like, everything's fluid, because like COVID is still a thing. It's still out there. It's still killing 2,000 plus people a day, and it's still the reality. It's still a reality that I have to contend with when I'm acting as a paramedic in the fire department. Yeah. But I'm optimistic. I read a lot of smart, like, people that are way smarter than me, that are not politicians. I just read scientists who say, hey, here's the hard line science. Here's what the data shows. And I'm optimistic. So yeah, ultimately, I think moving into this year, we're going to see a lot better days. I think the Omicron was like a thing that Omicron variant, like, kind of, it wiped a lot of people out, but it also gave a lot of people immunity. So they're already seeing data that's suggesting that we have like an innate immunity. So fingers crossed. But anyway, I don't want to go too far into that.
And we're at the end of this.
Yeah. Thing, so. Yeah. I think a lot of people need it.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you'll really enjoy, especially the drive from Vegas to LA when you go through like Palm Springs and everything, because that's the real Art Deco stuff. And then when you get out to Boise, I love Boise. If you like little small college towns, Boise's like that. I was up there for a few times, and I like that place. But that's it's gonna be a fun tour. That's gonna be a lot of driving. You're gonna see a lot of nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and it's I think there's something beautiful about like those expanses where you're just like out in the big sky, and it's just like, I mean, even if it's just like flat horizon and you don't get these like crazy mountains or vistas or anything, it just clears your head in this like kind of weird cathartic way, and it's like super nice. We actually went to Boise on our last tour because we played Tree Fort Festival last year. And when we hit like Utah and parts of Colorado and up in Idaho, like all that deserty kind of scrub brushy vista area is just like, it's so beautiful. And it's just like, there's those like real cool moments when 4 people are just sitting in the van and everybody's quiet and you're just like kind of taking in like the real splendor of like our country. It's a beautiful place. It's a really, for all the problems and all the bullshit and all the division and all the things that we can like hate ourselves for, like there is some really incredible stuff about this country. And I think like the physical beauty of this country is definitely one of those top things where we can all like sort of get like, if we could all agree that this place is pretty rad, like as far as the view
right behind him. So that's proof.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, listen, this is the Great Smoky Mountains right here. So this is Petit Jean Forget. But I'm actually really excited because now that gives me 2 things to get excited about for October: the potential of a new album, and also I get to go to Halloween Horror Nights for the first time. So
nice.
I get to enjoy that. My wife's a huge haunted house fan, and
cool.
It's one of the few places where I could take her. She's a paraplegic. I could actually take her into those places because usually they're kind of a skosh on the cramp side, but that one's gonna be big enough for it's gonna be fun.
No trunk or treat for you this year?
Oh God, trunk or treats. So they didn't know. So I have to explain this. They don't know what trunk or treat is.
Okay.
That being in the South, it is the lamest version of trick or treating ever humanly conceived.
Yeah.
It takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah, they do that a lot on military bases too. It's really lame.
Yeah. See, they didn't do that the one in Charleston when I was active duty down there. But we had to use the TSA scanners to scan all the chocolate because that was in like 2003, 2004, 2005, and 2006, where like there was still the big scare of like razor blades and candy apples. I'm like, God bless.
Give me a break.
I mean, we're in North Charleston, but we're not that bad, okay, guys.
Oh boy,
too funny. With this Vision Video album, your first one here, Inked in Red, I hear a lot of influences from obviously The Cure, and you're a huge Bauhaus fan. And, I'm not a huge. Well, I do like Gothic and stuff like that, but I love The Mission.
Oh, absolutely.
I hear a lot of The Mission in this album.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure, Wayne's guitar playing is like one of those things where it's just so like integral to that sound.
Yeah.
I think him and Johnny Marr are like huge influences, because they take these like beautiful, like kind of jazz and blues chords, and they do these syncopated picking schemes where they do string skipping. And that's a lot of what I do is these, like, I come up with I'll play like a chord that I think is really lovely, and I'll try to like manipulate it to have variance that kind of has its own melody and its own sort of voice to it, instead of just this intense strumming that you hear a lot of the times with, because I'm a rhythm guitar player. I don't really play a lot of leads. I don't do like, scales. I don't shred and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's, it's funny because I think a lot of people have a very like predefined image of like what goth rock is, and like so that whole milieu of music is a very controversial thing to talk about, especially on the goddamn internet, because it's like, I mean, you just think like you're like, I mean, you're saying the most like heretical things possible to people. But if you really do the research and kind of read about the genre of music and the subculture at large as it is now, is like, it's not a real thing. Like, it just got made up. Like, you had these bands like Joy Division, Bauhaus, Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, etc., like all the big classics from the late 70s and early 80s. And none of these people were like, oh, we're the goths, right? Like, you guys are goths, we're goths, like, we're goths now. Okay, this is goth rock. And
they never even called themselves that.
No, it wasn't until Susie Sue was like interviewed in like 80 something, and they said, well, how would you describe the Banshees music? And she said, well, it's got this sort of gothic aesthetic to it or something like that. And they're like, oh, there it is, there's the name, boom, goth, GOTH, we can sell this now. And I think once the media and the record industry especially sunk their claws into it's the same exact thing that happened to punk. Punk was an identified movement where people were like, yeah, this is punk rock, like, we are the punk rock movement, we're making music that challenges paradigms of institutionalized whatever. And then the record industry just like descended like some evil madman and just like was like, ha, and then had their marionette puppet boy bands that they were just like churning out. And that's actually why goth came to be, was a lot of those more sort of avant-garde artist types in that scene, like Susie Sue and Peter Murphy and all these guys. They said, this has become really like marketed and people are being sort of bought and sold. Let's just like make something that is focusing on the art. It's still political, it's still meaningful, but let's like bend a lot of the narratives that we're used to and just make like really, and if you really go back and you listen to like say Juju by Susie and the Banshees, a lot of those songs are like very bizarre, like noisy. They don't really have like coherent writing structure. It's just kind of noise a lot of the time. But every now and then they would write these beautiful songs, that were just so like Dazzle by Susie and the Banshees, like one of the most beautifully written songs of all time, or In the Flat Field by Bauhaus, like lyrically and sonically one of the most intense songs of all time. But these bands existed in this time where it was just truly about that art form. And I think it's really unfortunate that the same exact thing happened to sort of goth or post-punk music, because it became like, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you remember when zombies were like scary and cool? Like,
yes,
Romero,
before Zack
and then
Snyder's
like,
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. And then it's like The Walking Dead and then all this shit. And it just made it like a caricature. And there's still value to some of it. Like, some of The Walking Dead is like kind of cool. Like, the first season of Walking Dead was great. And then after that, I don't know. But like, it got inundated with money and influence of people that didn't understand what its truest form was about. And that's why it got so diluted and crazy. And now it's like kind of a joke in and of itself. Like, you could put like a zombie on like a Super Bowl commercial, and people would be like, "Oh yeah, just shoot it in the head." Like it wouldn't, and then nobody would have, you wouldn't have to explain the lore of like shooting a zombie in the head. Everybody's just like, "Oh, we get it." It's the same thing. Like you put a kid in like a leather jacket with spikes and like shitty makeup on, and they're like, "Oh, that's a goth. I bet he listens to Marilyn Manson." And I'm like, "Really? You think he does?" You know, like, so one of my things, and this has been kind of by design. I'd be a little remiss if I didn't say it wasn't by design. But one of the things that I wanted to do with Goth Dad from like the very beginning was like, "Hey kids, like it's your dear old Goth Dad, like in my 30s. They think that I'm like 90 years old, but like, I'm like, look, this scene is a real thing. Number one, don't take it too seriously, but number two, know your shit. Like, and here's all this stuff. Here's all this stuff, because there's a bunch of idiots out there that are trying to convince you that like, you know, Machine Gun Kelly is goth." And I'm like,
dear God.
Oh, he is not.
You know, like,
oh man.
And it's not, and people are like, "Well, you're just gatekeeping." I'm like, no. This is the same exact thing. It's literally the same exact thing as saying like, you know, Chuck Berry is death metal.
Right.
Chuck Berry's great, but he's not death metal.
He's definitely not.
You know, and I mean, there's obviously situations where genres blend and meld. And again, there are no rules really. Ultimately, culture defines itself, like especially subcultures define themselves. People within the umbrella of that subculture dictate what is in and what's not. And then that's just like kind of how things are. But, you know, I feel like I have this cool opportunity to be like, "Hey guys, like you're 18 and you're probably wondering like, what should I look at?" And I'm always going to tell them like, it's fine if you like Machine Gun Kelly. It's totally fine. And don't ever let some fucking middle-aged dude like me come on the internet and be like, "Fuck you for liking that," because you like what you like. You don't get to decide that. But if you want to be part of this thing, like you can do that, but you gotta know what this comes from and what this is, so that you can appreciate the differences. Right. And do it with like grace and like still move forward and like have some intelligence and some design. Because to me, like, you know, a lot of people ask me like, why the goth stuff? Why all this? Why, what do you do? Like, I have a job as a firefighter and a paramedic, and I come home, put a bunch of makeup on, get on front of a camera and do shit on TikTok all day. Like, and you know, to me, it's something that is so important to my life, because I do see a lot of macabre and death and horrible things. And to be able to enact this form of theater, because that's all it is. It's just this like theater manifest. It's like this modern day vaudevillian thing that we're doing. And it's an exaggeration. Like when I play with Vision Video, and I go in front of an audience and perform live, everything from my makeup to my facial expressions to my mindset is projected into a place of intense, awful shit. I mean, just things that I don't even feel comfortable telling people that are very close to me, oftentimes, that I've seen and been a part of. And I use that to exercise this bad place, but I do it in a way that's like meaningful and artistic. Nice. And I think there's a lot of kids. I mean, like we're living in a society, like, I mean, if you really think about it, like think about being between the ages of 17 and 22 right now. Like all these kids have PTSD probably because they've been in a fucking pandemic. Right. And all they want to do is go out and hang out with their friends. And every single person is like, "You can't do that. You're going to kill your grandma, blah, 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 blah." And like, yeah, they have to be restrained and they can't just do whatever they want right now. But like that affects you. And I think that's part of like why this stuff resonates in a way, is like we're all, you know, we are all going through a collective awful time. And I think that music, like if you, and again, not to get too long-winded into this stuff, but like, if you look at where that music came from, it's not just because punk got appropriated by record companies. we all thought the world was going to end in the early 80s. I mean, like,
Right.
what was that movie that they put on like ABC where the nuclear
day
war,
after.
The day
the
after.
day after, like that shit was on like 7 p.m. TV. Like, it's
Literally,
like
literally
graphic
people calling
depiction.
911 to report a nuclear blast had happened.
Yeah. I mean,
Reagan demanded they air it on primetime.
right. So, you know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's very similar. I mean, look at Russia and Ukraine right now.
Right.
Like, I mean, and again, it's like the narrative is being sold to people like, hey, go to war. Like, we need to do this. We need to protect the Western concepts of democracy and freedom. When in reality, it's so like nebulous at best. And so, you know, and these kids aren't stupid. They know that they're being lied to. You know, these kids now that are 18 to 22 are so much smarter than we realize, because, you know, we like to crap on sort of Gen Z because they're so inundated with media, but like they also have had nothing but, you know, constant information thrown at them their entire lives. Whereas we like went outside and like beat trees with sticks and like shot BB guns at windows and shit. Like we did dumb shit.
Licked batteries.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, I just think there's a lot of value to this stuff. And I mean, for better or for worse, it sort of gets wrapped into this like concept of goth. And I would just as well, if like we all just stop referring to it as anything, but for brevity's sake and for the necessity of understanding, you know, we have to go, well, yeah, like I'm a goth. You know, when I was like in my mid 20s, I was like, I'm not a goth. That's like a stupid thing to call yourself. But now I'm like, yeah, like, of course I am. Like, I'm a walking stereotype. I own a hearse and my house is black. Like, I'm a fucking goth. So, yeah,
Well, actually,
anyway.
I wanted to commend you because you show a way of coping with what you've seen and what you've experienced in life, a different way than say like I always talk about the way Vet TV does the dark and really messed up humor ways of doing things as a coping mechanism, whereas you do it in a different way, and it shows people that, hey, there's not just the one way of just being a complete and total, you know, jerkwad every once, you know, and do really dark humor that way. There's other ways of coping with this stuff, and there's other ways of getting around the issues, like listening to Kandahar and listening to those songs, really, you know, and really listening to them and getting deep into the songs. You can hear the pain and the stuff that you're trying to you're trying to get these emotions out in a healthy way, and that's it's a very powerful thing to say.
There's genuine love and empathy behind what you do, so it's really awesome that it transfers.
I mean, and that's what it boils down to for me, is like, you know, I think, and honestly, way more now even than in the military. Like, I've seen some really brutally terrible things in the past couple of years, and let alone just like the constant running of COVID patients who are like very critical, who are like, it's like, and they're like, am I going to be okay? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to keep you okay. But, you know, and especially in the past year where it's like, did you get vaccinated? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I can't tell you, but, you know, being in that world has driven me to a lot of personal like my personal life and my emotional life is sort of a giant chaotic mess. But the one real overriding benefit that kind of gets ahead of all that stuff is that I've gained, I think, a lot of ability to desire for just goodness, you know, and just making things better in small ways. I'm really obsessed with this band called Frightened Rabbit, and they're from Scotland, and they're kind of a indie folk band that operated from like, I think like 2007 till about 2017. And actually my guitar is the previously owned by the lead singer and guitarist, which is, his name was Scott Hutchison. And unfortunately, a couple of years after I I won his guitar randomly in an auction for some charity. I like put in some bid and I was like, there's no way I'm going to win this. And I won it. And I was like, first of all, I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, oh shit, I have to pay for that. So yeah, I had like
and that's a Fender Jazzmaster that you play, correct?
I do have a Jazzmaster, but this is a 64 Fender Jag. And so it's similar. And it's a beautiful guitar, but he unfortunately died by taking his own life a couple of years ago. And there's this one song that he had, and one of his sort of central concepts with art and music was we're all kind of fucked up, but we need to make tiny changes to earth. One of his songs, the lyric is like, while I'm alive, I'll make tiny changes to earth. And it's kind of cheesy in a way, but I mean, he was really genuine about it. And I highly recommend you go check out any of his live performances. Scott Hutchison with Frightened Rabbit. I mean, he just has this way with words and this beautiful soul that he just, bared maybe too much. And, I think I've been trying in the past several years since he passed, especially to like do exactly that. It's just so easy to like be shitty and be, I don't know, just be like a jerk to people or even more pervasive, not just being outright negative or mean or something, but just like uncaring, just like turning a cold shoulder. It's so easy to just turn a shoulder to things like racism, like hearing a racist comment in the Walmart while somebody's watching the person say it and we do nothing, or, hearing somebody say something shitty to, somebody who's in a condition that's not, of their own doing, like mental health or congenital disease or whatever. Like, there's so many times that we just like stop ourselves from making a difference. And I do that, we all do it. It's something, but it's so simple, and it's something, it costs nothing other than our time and our effort. And I think that if we all did like 10% more, like this place would be so much better. And if we just listened a little bit more, maybe too, but I don't know. I certainly hope that that's something that comes through the music. And I think our next record is very different in a lot of ways.
I was going to ask, how much different was it going to be from the first?
Yeah, I think sonically it's just different. You'll see it like right off the bat. I think we're a lot better musicians because we know each other now. We all four of us are like super. We all anticipate what each other are doing now. So songwriting has become a lot more fluid, and it's really nice now. We actually just like spent the day kind of fleshing out some of the songs that I had written that we hadn't really dug into with the other band members. And we just knocked them out like super easily today, because it's like, I just kind of know what they're going to do and they know what I'm doing. And so sonically you're getting some songs that are a little bit more, you still get that like sense of 80s nostalgia, but you're getting some different angles of it. We have a song that sounds like very much so like The Cult. We have a really heavy song that's kind of death rock, like 45 Grave, Christian Death, very violent, very angry song. I mean, it comes from a place of anger. We've got like this really beautiful ballady song where Emily and I harmonize, and it's kind of a love song about mortality, I guess. It's like I kind of wrote it with her, and I've seen a lot of couples that have either had the other person die or like one of them is dying, and I kind of was in that mind space to explore that because it's awful, but it's also kind of beautiful in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, because you're seeing the end of something natural, and it does happen to all of us. Those of us lucky to have a love forever and for a lifetime. One day that ends, and I've seen that, and it's a profound moment, I should say. So there's angles like that. There's some sort of exegesis of society in the past couple of years that is explored through the lens of everything that I've seen. just as a person experiencing the visceral nature of this stuff for the past couple of years. And it's not necessarily in an angry place, but more of a just kind of an observant, just like, this is what I felt and what I've seen. But and then a couple songs are very like just slow. Like we have this one, I mean, it's again, we have another one, it's sort of a ballady kind of thing, and you can actually go hear it right now because there's a demo out that I put for this publication called Destroy Exist. They did a really, really wonderful compilation called A Growing Scarcity of Expectation, which I thought was just such a cool name. But you can actually listen to the song. I think I gave it a working name called Hearts on Fire or something like that. But it's a very slow, just sort of, you know, kind of exploration into my mental health when I was at a really tough time in the middle of the pandemic. So basically, yeah, you're getting a lot of different angles of my life, but also societal stuff. And a lot of these songs are really dancey, very upbeat still, but there's a little bit of more of a punch to some of them, a little bit more punk, and even some metal stuff going on. So a little bit of something for everybody, I think. And I mean, it's literally taking shape before our eyes right now. So I'm excited just to see what it really becomes, because we record this stuff, and then, you know, Tom, as a producer, not only just a member of the band now, but as in his production sense, I mean, he really has this insane skill, and I'm just so excited to see like how he kind of puts his magic and his sort of dark Tom Ashton Dower, you know, gothy British dark magic on this stuff.
Cool. Well, just from that description alone, I can't wait to hear what you guys come out with. It's
awesome.
It's gonna be good.
Cool.
Yeah. I really look forward to it. I really enjoyed this record. My girlfriend Sammy actually loves you guys because when Wayne was first talking about this, he just mentioned the Goth Dad stuff, which yeah, cringe. Not really my type of humor, but I get it.
Yeah.
It's cool, but loved it. As soon as I heard it, the videos are awesome. But and you mentioned the Cure, Violets, bands like that. But what actually reminded me the most of, especially with the emotion and everything, is Stib Bator's Lords of the New Church.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're great. You know?
But you and I are actually the same age, and everything you mentioned was just a big influence on me too. You know, Christian Death, different things like that. So I'm really excited to hear the second one.
Cool. Yeah. I think you'll like it. It's very different, but I think it's one of those things that shows like also our future and like kind of where we're, you know, I think one of my favorite things about music and my favorite bands like The Cure, especially is probably the best example, but there's, you know, many other examples, but is when a band can put out a good record and then do something totally different, but it's still them, but it's better even though it's different. And I think, you know, music evolves and people evolve as we grow older and we experience more, and we're privy to different things. You know, tastes change within the musicians themselves. I mean, what I was listening to now is totally different from what I was listening to 2 years ago. And yeah, I just think it's one of the most magnificent parts of music, is that it can change and evolve, and we all get to be kind of like spectators to that. It really is like this sort of insight to the person or the people that are making it. And I think that's like a really powerful thing that you can't get off of social media or, you know, whatever else. It's like only in that format in a way.
And to piggyback on what Greg said, I mean, for me, what I loved about it was that it reminded me of The Cure, Joy Division, Bauhaus, Sisters of Mercy, all bands I grew up loving, and especially the first album from Dead Can Dance, their self-titled album.
Yeah.
So that to me is, I mean, and I love Dead Can Dance, but I mean, for me, their first album was like the greatest thing that they've ever done, especially the one that is a compilation of the first album with the Arcane EP.
Yeah.
So, and I think your debut album is amazing, and if the quality of the second album matches it. I mean, I sure I speak for all of us when I say we really hope that it takes you to the next level. Definitely.
Well, yeah. I mean, our goal is to kind of, I think we're going to sort of market this to a broader audience in a way. And it's not that the music is any more or less accessible. I think we just have something that is inherently listenable because we're writing from a place of honesty, which is not always easy to do, when you're writing from places of trauma and stuff like that. But I think it comes across. And, I mean, like I said earlier on, my goal is not to make a ton of money. If it happens, cool. Like I said, I'm also terrified of that. But
then you'll be able to buy the tool.
Yeah, then I can finally. If
there was incentive not to make that much money,
the ultimate goal is just to buy that tool comp. But I mean, I just simply want to pay my bills and have a little saved away for a rainy day while I figure out post vision video plans. But ultimately, I'll kind of, I do have to get out of here, but I'll leave you kind of with a last little vignette of why this means so much to me. And it was, we were on tour from September to October, and our last date was in Memphis. And it wasn't the best attended show. All of our shows were pretty well attended, but it was not, crazy. But we were all we're at the end of a tour, you're tired. You're very ready to go home. Right. I have 3 cats. I was just man, I just want to see my cats and watch a shitty horror movie and pass out. But we're getting ready. And the last couple shows on a tour, you really have to get in front of a mirror and okay, psych yourself up. Let's do this. Get the energy. The same energy goes into every show. That's my promise to our fans. It doesn't matter if there's 2 of you out there or there's 1,000 at a show. You're going to get the same show. But sometimes at the end, you have to lie to yourself and be all right, let's go do this. So I kind of got myself in the right headspace, and I walked out, and this woman was there, and they had kind of opened the doors early, and I was I don't care, it's fine. So she comes up and she was hey, she's you're Dusty, right? And I'm yeah, I wasn't in any of the makeup or anything yet. And she's hey, I don't want to bother you, but if I could take a couple of minutes of your time. I was yeah, totally. What's going on? And she said, basically, my brother was in Iraq in the early 2000s, in the early part of the war. He came back, and he just had debilitating PTSD, and he tried real hard to get through it for a couple of years, but he ended up taking his life. And she told me, she was listening to your music helped me understand him, and it helped me get to know him in a way that I don't think I ever would have without this. And I mean, it just nearly crippled me, and I managed to keep my composure because I immediately recognized, how valuable a moment that was, and how meaningful that was to both of us. And that's what it all is to me. And ever since that, I mean, I've known that in the back of my head, but it wasn't until that succinct moment where I was this is the power of this. If you want to,
until somebody actually tells you that,
so
you don't know. So.
Yeah. And I mean, and I started on the way home, that last leg home to Athens the next day, I was thinking a lot about why do you do this? Why do you spend 30 to 40 hours on social media every week? And then the countless hundreds of hours of songwriting and production and recording and practice, and then getting in a van for 8 hours to go to a place to be uncomfortable and sweaty and have a good time, but then load up and do it again. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress and pressure on your body and your mind. But it was this can only happen through this process, because it's a conversation. And that's the thing that I always tell people at shows is music is a conversation, and I'm only half of that conversation. I create the sort of genesis of the conversation and the message to be the first volley of the message, so to speak. But if there's nobody there to sort of commiserate and receive feedback, then it's just me sort of yelling into the void, and that's fine. I mean, there's value to that, but it's just, I think it's a uniquely beautiful thing that we can have that like conversation in motion and through action, and that's just a cool thing.
Yeah, that's why I love music so much. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
why I love your album Vision Video.
Thanks.
Inked in red. I'm terrible at remembering. Inked in red. So go buy that and get ready for the next album. Hopefully in October.
Yeah,
We know how things happen. So
yeah,
but
should be.
Yeah, it should be in October. But good luck with everything. And where can people go to find Vision Video stuff?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on your flavor. The first thing I recommend is the hub, which is just visionvideoband.com. That's got links to everything on there. So you can, it's also our store. So you can check out our YouTube, our TikTok, our Instagram. It's all linked there. But you can also check out some merch to support us. We've got CDs. We don't have any vinyl right now because it's sold out, which is a good problem to have. But we've got a bunch of shirts. We should be reissuing vinyl soon, and just a variety of stuff. But then if you're looking for a little more levity in your life, that's like goth flavored, go over to TikTok. And you'll see me embarrassing myself on a regular basis, but it's very entertaining. And then, our Instagram is more music orientated, but it also has a lot of my like makeup stuff. I've for those of you that don't know anything about me, I originally, before I joined the Army, I actually learned to be a makeup effects artist because I was going to like move to California to do that because I was always fascinated by horror films. So I do a lot of like look of the day, like, just goth makeup tutorials. I do it for men and masculine presenting people. I do it for women. I do special effects stuff. I do a little bit of everything. So, but the Instagram is generally more music orientated. So if you're looking for tour dates, it's also on the website, but, yeah, just go to the website. It's all there. It's all there.
At the website. The one thing though, where in New York were you going to play?
We are playing at the Red Party at the Mercury Lounge with Rose Garden Funeral Party. And that will be April 10th, I think. That hasn't been announced yet officially. I mean, it's on our announcement for tour, but they're not selling tickets yet. I will say, if you guys are going to come to that,
I don't even where in New York is that?
That is, I think, in Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
it's either
Mercury Lounge is somewhere in the Village around that area.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a cool spot. I mean, it's a really neat place. You guys hit me up. I'll make sure that you guys are listed so that if y'all want to come by, but everybody else out there, make sure when that keep an eye on our Instagram. That's actually a good thing to keep an eye on the Instagram for, because that will sell out between us and Rose Garden Funeral Party. Like it's going to sell out. Awesome. So please do check that out and try to get your tickets quick.
That's right. Get those tickets quick and go visit Dusty and watch all his videos because he's very funny and very informative for everything that you post there. And good luck with the new album. And
Thanks,
go to
guys.
ratsoundreview.com and check out all our stuff and go to musicallifepodcast.com and anything else.
Yeah, you guys stay strange and keep on doing the good stuff. Keep on getting the good word about music out there.
We will try. We will keep trying.
And may you all find a goth girl out there that loves Taco Bell.
Yes.
And a Waffle House.
And Waffle House.
There you go.
All right.
I'm a code blue guy myself.
A code blue.
Code blue. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and we hope to have you on when the new album comes out.
Yeah,
we'd love to have you.
Definitely hit me up. I'll have a lot to talk about at that point because we'll have 2 tours of stories to go over. So that's the best thing too, is like now that we've gotten all the precursor stuff out of the way, we can talk about all the embarrassing stuff that I've done on tour. So. And Emily too. She's got some stories. So.
Yeah.
I'll bring her out too.
All right, cool.
We'll get her to hang out.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah. She's more fun than I am. So.
I'm sure.